The Prime Minister is making a major housing announcement in Toronto. Let's listen in live to that.
Mayor Olivia Chow. Olivia, thank you so much for everything you've been doing, your collaboration on this, your passion for building more homes faster, especially affordable homes, is part of why we are able to be so ambitious as we move forward. And you are one of those people who understands that the way to get things done is to work in partnership, and that's why I'm so glad to be doing it with you. Les secteurs privés et à but non lucratif et tous les niveaux de gouvernement
and non-profit sectors and all levels of government must work together in order to be able to build more housing. Right here, where we are now, we are seeing the construction of over 200 apartments with the rental housing initiative. It's a little more than $100 million in financing facilitated by the federal government to create this apartment building. Today, we're going to talk about the fund to accelerate the construction of housing.
Before we get into it, I want to offer my condolences to the family and loved ones of John Godfrey, a great Torontonian. John was a teacher, a journalist, former member of Parliament representing Don Valley West. People often referred to him as the unofficial Minister of Cities. He understood the importance of working together with all levels of government, just like what we're doing today. His dedication and inspiration will continue to feed us all for years to come, and our thoughts are with his friends and family and all who knew him and loved him well. It is so great to be here. Toronto is our biggest city. It's a world-class city. It's an incredibly vibrant place where every neighborhood is unique, whether it's here in Leslieville or in Mount Pleasant, in the Annex, the Beaches, Scarborough, North York, Cabbagetown, and I could name so many others. Young people come to study here in some of our best universities. Others are here to pursue the careers of their dreams. Families from around the world come to Toronto to build a better life. It's a great city, and if we want to keep it great, we have to make homes more affordable. People who come here need to be able to afford to build a life and a family. People who were born here need to be able to succeed in the communities where they grew up. We're facing a shortage of housing right now. Whether you own or rent, the prices of homes have become way too high. And that is why we created the Housing Accelerator Fund to build more homes of all types faster. Aujourd'hui, on annonce une entente avec la Ville de Toronto dans le cadre du Fonds
with the City of Toronto under the fund to accelerate the construction of housing. This agreement will help to build tens of thousands of units in the next coming years.
Housing Accelerator Fund, we told municipalities they could access these funds with bold plans to eliminate red tape and remove barriers. And that's exactly what this agreement today with Toronto does. Through this funding, Toronto will make it easier to get projects rolling by simplifying rezoning requirements and modernizing regulations. It'll also update old zoning rules. It'll expand existing affordable rental programs, and it'll build more homes near transit. With today's agreement, the City of Toronto will fast-track 12,000 new homes over the next 3 years and well over 50,000 new homes over the next decade. We're making real progress today with the 16th Housing Accelerator Fund agreement. You've been busy, Sean. Cette semaine, on a aussi fait des annonces à Winnipeg,
this week we also made announcements in Winnipeg, Mississauga, and Burnaby. Last week, I was with Sean in Vancouver for their major announcement. The agreements that we've signed to accelerate the construction of housing will help to build over 340,000 housing units faster over the next decade. We're also investing in affordable housing. We're encouraging the construction of rental housing as well.
A future is hard work. Building hundreds of thousands of homes across the country is hard work. Conservative politicians think we can solve a complex issue like housing with a simplistic video. But that's not serious. The Conservative Party keeps voting against funding for housing. If it were up to them, we would not be here today. But our Liberal approach is to work together with municipalities. Our approach is to invest in people. It's to invest in the future. La promesse du Canada, c'est d'améliorer
the promise of Canada is to improve the quality of life in every generation. To ensure that that promise holds, we must continue to work hard and provide serious solutions. That's exactly what we'll continue to do.
Canada is the best country in the world. Let's keep working together to make it even better. With that, I'm very pleased to pass it over to my friend, the hardest working housing minister in the country, Sean Fraser.
Yay! Look, first, a huge thank you, Prime Minister, for your leadership on the housing file and to give us the tools that we need to succeed, not just as a government, but as a country. I want to acknowledge as well the support of Minister Freeland in particular for making decisions that allow us to have the resources necessary to achieve agreements like the one that we've done today. And an enormous thank you to my colleagues who represent the City of Toronto, who are tremendous advocates for the place that they call home. And I just want to give a huge thank you for their advocacy as well. Today is a great day. It's the kind of day that gives me a sense of optimism that we can actually make the kind of change that will address and solve Canada's national housing crisis. The reality is, just a few short months ago, when we were talking about the ambition of the Housing Accelerator Fund, I don't think people fully understood the possibilities if we en masse cause cities across country to rapidly upzone Canada, so to speak. I want to share a bit of a story about how this particular deal came to be. When I was first appointed to this position, we were looking at the opportunities with the Housing Accelerator Fund. And what came to the City of Toronto, literally the country's largest city with the slowest permitting process anywhere in Canada, we realized the initial application was not up to snuff. It did not meet the level of ambition that we wanted to address. I intended, after Mayor Chow's election, to raise my concerns about the initial application with her, and she beat me to the punch. She submitted an enhanced application before I had the chance to make that suggestion. Then she came to Ottawa to actually meet with me and others to discuss the kinds of changes that we could encourage them to go further on to squeeze every bit of housing out of the investment that we were prepared to make. As a result of our ongoing conversations, we've landed on a deal that's going to dramatically scale up the density near post-secondary institutions. It's going to lead to far more density near transit stations. It's going to allow people to live where the services and economic opportunities are in communities that already have the infrastructure to support them. The reality is the housing crisis is manifesting in ways that are extremely difficult for ordinary Canadians. There are too many young people who have to commute an hour to get to class. There are too many people starting their career that can't afford a place to live in the place where they found a job. And there's too many seniors who want nothing more than to age in the community where their grandkids are being raised. And I don't think that's too much to ask. Part of the reason that we're dealing with such a challenging housing situation is because over the course of the last number of decades, cities have made it very difficult to build the kinds of homes that will accommodate people who want to live in cities like Toronto. And today we're signaling here in Toronto and across the country, things don't need to be that way. If we make the decision to legalize housing across the city so people can actually build a small apartment for people who want to live in the community, we can make a difference. If we want to build big apartments near the transit stations where we've invested billions of dollars of infrastructure, we can get people moving to opportunities in communities that are desirable to live in. This is an exciting day, but it's not a coincidence that we chose this site for the announcement. This particular project is one that we supported through the Apartment Construction Loan Program, and it demonstrates what density can do. The site that we're on just a few years ago had only 120 homes, Toronto Community Housing. We had a chance during the tour to hear about the new project, which is not only going to replace the 120 homes with newer, higher quality accommodations for families who need the help. They're adding more units to this particular parcel of land where there's now going to be between 800 and 900 homes for people to live in where there was only 120 something before. When we encourage cities to adopt new zoning rules, we can repeat the success of this project over and over, and we can bring Canada's national housing crisis to an end. I want to give a huge thank you to our partners with the City of Toronto. We got a lot of work ahead, but today marks an important occasion to celebrate a new chapter in the city's history when it comes to housing. With that, I'd like to pass the microphone to my friend and colleague, the Finance Minister, Freeland. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Great work. Okay, you may have noticed there are two heights of people.
We have diversity within our party.
We have height diversity. Okay, so thank you very much, Sean. Thank you so much for the fantastic work you're doing on housing, and thank you for working so hard for our great city of Toronto. I am so happy to be here today. This is a great day for Toronto. Thank you so much, Prime Minister, for supporting our city, our country, for leading on housing. And I do also really want to offer a shout out to all of my Toronto MP colleagues. They are here, they are splendidly arrayed here. And the Toronto caucus has been so focused on housing and on this issue. I don't know how many times we have had Sean talking with us, meeting after meeting after meeting, because we know that this matters so much to our constituents and to our communities. And I'm really, really happy that we are here with the woman who is our essential partner, Toronto's great mayor. We, all of us, recognize that housing is the central challenge in Canada right now. It's the central challenge in people's lives. It's the central economic challenge. And we know that what we need is to build, build, build. We need supply, supply, supply. And so I do also just want to thank all the people who are here with us in hard hats and vests. We had a chance to talk to some of the people who are building this project, and every single person I talked to was so proud of the work they're doing, and rightly so, and recognized that they are literally building our city, building beautiful homes for their neighbors and their community. We're here to look at some of those homes and also to celebrate an amazing thing, which is an agreement on the Housing Accelerator Fund. We launched that fund in our 2022 budget because we knew then we needed to build more homes faster, and we needed to do it in partnership with municipalities across the country. We needed to bring something to the table to help cities build more faster. That's our contribution, the Housing Accelerator Fund. And we knew that each city is different, so we needed to have great ministers prepared to do the work with great mayors to do deals that work for each city and get more homes built faster. So far, the deals, those 16 deals that Sean and our team have done, will fast-track the construction of more than 380,000 new homes for people across Canada. That is amazing. And today's announcement alone will fast-track nearly 12,000 new homes in Toronto over the next 3 years and more than 53,000 homes over the next decade. And that is just part of our plan. Toronto is a growing city, and it needs governments at all levels to respond to those needs. Just last month, I was able to announce 2 major rental housing construction projects being built right across Toronto, using the fund that Sean referred to, the Apartment Construction Loan Program, including 2,700 new homes just up the street from my riding. The mayor was there too. And the people who are building this project told me, I asked the Prime Minister to say this specifically to you, because the Prime Minister has been a real driving force behind the design of the Apartment Construction Loan Program. They told me that is a great program. It helps create—
All right, big news for Toronto. Ottawa announcing it's giving the city almost $500 million in the coming years to build more housing in Toronto. We'll have much more on this announcement coming up on CP24 Live at noon. We'll be right back.
That's why we were so glad our team together.
We're going to take you back live to Leslieville now, where Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Mayor Olivia Chow are making a major housing announcement. Let's listen in to Olivia Chow.
Of thousands of construction-ready homes will be built over the coming years. That's exciting. Yes, it needs a round of applause at least. These homes include new rent geared to income, below market and market rents, units in mixed income, mixed-use communities and neighborhoods. And as part of the Housing Accelerator Fund deal, we are reaffirming our commitment to match the urgency of our housing crisis with the speed of our actions. I am so grateful and happy to be standing here today with our Prime Minister, our Deputy Prime Minister, our Housing Minister, the local Member of Parliament, and entire Liberal Toronto caucus here. And thank you for providing hope to thousands of people, young and old, from all walks of life, and giving them a new beginning. We are providing hope to people like Hamza. A fresh start that comes from knowing that there will be thousands of units of secure and affordable homes just like those here at the Dawn Summerview Toronto Community Housing Revitalization Project. I want to acknowledge the local councillor, Councillor Paula Fletcher, who fought for years to have more affordable housing included in this project. It's the first community housing revitalization project to hit the goal of 30% rent geared to income and below market housing. Thanks to her hard work and the team here, I see city staff, very committed folks, and everyone with hard hats on. This development has 100 more affordable units, including 32 co-op units, plus 120 rent geared to income units, 550 condos and rentals. Thank you, Paula. Thank you to all of you. This new mixed income community is an example of what we can accomplish together. Imagine with this new federal government support, the city will be able to build more affordable housing just like this project. It is beyond exciting. We will make it easier and faster to get approvals. We will allow for more density and more types of housing. Today's announcement is a significant step. I look forward to continued partnership and future announcements as we work together to build more housing faster for the people of Toronto. Thank you so much for being here.
We will now start the press conference. Nous allons maintenant commencer avec la conférence de presse. First question goes to Jeff Gray from the Globe and Mail.
Thanks. Hi, Prime Minister. Wanted to ask, when people look at the numbers, you know, this program, 380,000 homes over a decade, when people see numbers from The Economist, from the CMHC, we're talking about millions of homes that are required. How is this not just a drop in the bucket?
One of the things we've been doing over the past years has been changing the math, changing the way people look at building housing in our communities, in our cities right across the country. We're here in a building where the federal government facilitated over $100 million worth of financing to allow this to happen. And that was done years ago with the Rental Construction Financing Fund initiative that actually allows for these sorts of things. We're changing the math for developers, not just by putting money in specific projects, but by creating a pathway forward. And that's exactly what we're doing with the Housing Accelerator as well, which is not just about building direct units, which is part of it, but it's also about changing the rules around densification and zoning so that more and more units can be built independently of the federal government, independently of whether there's direct investment or not. So yes, there are predictions of hundreds of thousands of new units to be built over the coming years, but we actually know that the way we're changing the rules of the game, thanks to the extraordinary leadership of cities like Toronto that are seeing that changing the way we get things built in this country is the only way to keep up with the growth and the ambition that Canadians have for the country we're continuing to build every day.
And as a follow-up, there are people saying that one of the things the federal government could do or should do is temper the immigration targets, that's exacerbating the housing crisis. What do you say to that?
Actually, it's not the immigration targets. Yes, we're seeing big numbers, but we have to understand there's a breakdown in those numbers. First of all, our immigration targets of close to 500,000 permanent residents every year, that is the steady growth that is going to continue to grow our economy. But there are three areas in which we've seen massive expansion over the past years that we need to make sure we're dealing with in an appropriate and responsible way. The first one is around asylum seekers. We've seen, despite the closing of Roxham Road, we've seen a spike in asylum seekers, and we're working with international partners and we're putting in mechanisms to make sure that we're able to support the people who come here fleeing violence, persecution, and war. The second area is around international students. And one of the things that we've seen over the past years is a massive expansion in international students. That's great. They come here, they benefit to our universities, they contribute to our economy in many ways, but it has to be done in a responsible way. And that's why we're moving forward with a process that's going to ensure that those students who show up are actually going to accredited, responsible institutions of learning that have a plan to ensure housing for the international students who come, instead of just welcoming them in and expecting them to fend for themselves in the communities that surround those institutions. It's something that that is a logical step, and that's an announcement we've made, that international student visas and acceptance will be tied to whether or not the institutions have a plan to actually ensure adequate and supportive housing for those students. And the third area where we've seen massive growth is around temporary workers. We need workers to grow our economy, but we need to make sure it's being done right and responsibly. And again, there's work that we're doing with employers to make sure that if they really need to bring in someone from overseas to be able to succeed as a business, well, they have to be more involved in ensuring adequate housing for the people they bring in. It's all about continuing to grow our economy and benefit from immigration, but doing it in ways that does benefit and strengthen our communities in the right ways.
Next question.
Aidan Schmandy from the Trillium. This is for Minister Fraser. So one of the biggest asks of the city to access this funding was to do BC-style upzoning around transit. The city's response didn't explicitly commit to that, so I'm wondering why you approved this application if that kind of key commitment wasn't in there.
So one of the key things to understand is that the Housing Accelerator Fund is designed to motivate changes within the control of municipal governments. There is no question in my mind that the city has the ambition to build out the transit-oriented development that I want to see, that's going to help not only solve Toronto's housing crisis, but the housing challenges in communities that exist around Toronto, and not just within the GTA, frankly. You'll all be familiar with the drive to qualify phenomenon. If we actually build out stock around transit, we can solve some of these big challenges. I had some concerns initially when I saw the proposed response, but I have to say credit to the debate that played out at City Council, and I know Councillor Bradford's here, who put forward a motion that gave me some comfort the city's going to move in that direction. And our engagement directly with the Mayor's office has indicated that they have a desire to move forward. There is a provincial government element to this conversation as well around major transit station areas. I'll be meeting this afternoon with Minister Calandra to discuss this amongst other items as well. But the agreement is structured in a way that 25% of the funding, $471 million, by the way, to build these 53,000 homes over the next decade, is structured in a way where 25% flows up front. The balance is released as milestones are met over the course of the agreement. So we're going to continue to work very closely with the city and, where appropriate, the province to ensure we actually see the reforms that will get housing built. I'm not interested in just seeing a commitment made. I'm interested in seeing change have an impact, and I have full faith we'll get there with the city.
So the follow-up is on the provincial government involvement with the official plans, and I'm wondering if I could also get Mayor Chow to step in on this one as well, but also interested, Mr. Fraser, in your meeting with Mr. Calandra. So do both of you expect the province to step in and upzone beyond what the Toronto official plan currently says?
Absolutely. I know that the provincial government is very interested in increasing the density in all the transit hubs. We have been in negotiation, and we have just recently approved one, a huge one, that unlocked 8,000 units of housing in just one area. So there are a lot more to come.
Next question.
Prime Minister, Mark McAllister from City News. There are other asks on the table from this city beyond just housing. Obviously, you're very aware of the refugee crisis in this city and the need to be able to do more to help those people out. What more can the federal government do?
The federal government will continue to be there as a partner to the City of Toronto and indeed to cities across the country. We have stepped up over the past years with hundreds of millions of dollars across the country in support for asylum seekers, and we will continue to. I have already had great conversations with Mayor Chow, and we're going to continue to work together on these issues. It is an important thing that we need to bring in the province, continue to bring in the provinces in as well, but the federal government is always going to be here as a partner for the City of Toronto.
A follow-up to that, more or less on the same theme, more asks from the city in terms of federal dollars. We keep hearing about subway trains in this city. We know that transit is being developed and is being built at this point, but there's a need to be able to operate those subway systems with more trains. What can be done?
Olivia and I have known each other for over 15 years now, and those early years were spent fighting against a federal government that refused to invest in transit, refused to invest in infrastructure. And we changed that approach. We made sure that the federal government was there as a partner in growing our cities. We recognize that cities are mostly a provincial jurisdiction, but we also knew that the federal government needed to step up. And that's what we did with historic investments in public transit, now with historic investments in housing, including the $471 million announcement we're making today. We're going to continue to be there, and we need to make sure that all orders of government are working together with the vision and the progressive partner that Olivia is, not just for our government, but for all people in Toronto, and bringing the province along on this. We're excited about what we're going to be able to do all together in the coming years.
Hey, good morning, Prime Minister. Colin DeMello from Global News. A pandemic-related procurement. Your government spent $2 billion buying a COVID-19 rapid test, the lime green ones from BTNX. Global News found that the company edited their clinical studies given to Health Canada for approval without explanation, which made the tests appear more reliable. Wondering, how did this happen under your watch, and will the government review the decision to approve these tests?
One of the things we have to remember is during the pandemic, we were doing everything we could in unprecedented ways to get as many different ways of keeping Canadians safe as we possibly could, whether it was on rapid tests, whether it was on procurement of PPE, whether it was on contracts for vaccines and getting the vaccines.
All right, Ottawa announcing it is giving Toronto almost $500 million in the coming years to build more housing in this city. This money will be used specifically to accelerate housing development and increasing density near transit hubs. That will be a major focus. This agreement comes under the federal government's Housing Accelerator Fund, and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says it will create tens of thousands of housing units in Toronto in the coming years.